Thanks for your company. Welcome back to the marketplace. Now to the very first story. Inflation has gone up for the first time this year after a three-time consecutive decline. The rate for April has now shot up to 13%. This represents an increase of 0.2 percentage points compared with a rate of 12.8% recorded in March. This means prices of goods and services, though continue to increase, the rate of increase in April was higher than that recorded in March. So what exactly are the drivers for the increase in April? Here's acting statistician Ban Wadie.
Currently for inflation rate, is the non-food which is driving the tempo of inflation that we are observing. Thank you. But if we want the specifics as to what actually pushed up or accounted for the inflation that we are observing for April, then we have mainly transport. The transport group had an increase in the inflation rate by about 9.6%. We also have communications, which also went up by a 0.1 percentage point. And then we have miscellaneous goods and services, which also went up by 0.1 percentage points. These were the key causes of the inflation that we are observing, the 13.0% that we are observing for the month of April 2017.
So meaning that any price change within these groups will affect the inflation rate significantly?
Subsequently, yeah.
Let's now do some analysis on this development, and we're joined on the line by Data Bank economist Courage Marty, who will help us with that analysis. Good afternoon, sir. Welcome to the marketplace. Now, what do you make of the current inflation rate? It's the third time the third decline after it stood up or it maintained some ascendancy for 3 consecutive times this year.
Well, the first point we make from that is that it confirms our views that monetary policy easing in 2017 will have to take a cautious approach, because when we went for the last MPC meeting and there was a 200 basis point reduction in the policy rate, it came as a pleasant surprise, but we also felt that if you look at the inflation dynamics, it gains the fact that even though headline inflation has been declining over the last couple of months, the core component of inflation remains high, and the non-food inflation component remains a major and significant determining factor.
Exactly.
Against the backdrop of the fact that we expected transport fares to be increased, and it was long overdue in terms of the increase in transport fares. We are now seeing the crystallizing effect on inflation. And to that extent, it supports our views that going forward, the central bank would then have to adopt a more cautious approach in easing monetary policy.
Now, as compared with the other key drivers, apart from transportation, the miscellaneous goods and services and communications, they witnessed marginal, declines. Now, are we to say that in case we had some good record for the transport sector, would have a further decline of inflation?
Well, yes. The transport sector is a reflection of the non-food inflation group, which is heavily weighted. About 66% of the weight is due to non-food inflation. And that is why it is not surprising that even though there was a 60 basis point decline in food inflation, there was still an increase in the overall or the headline inflation, because the non-food inflation driven by transport sector went up. And so the decline in food inflation would mean very little if we don't contain the non-food inflation group.
All right, so currently, what does it mean for the economy? What are the implications of these current rates?
Okay, theoretically, when inflation goes up, you expect interest rates to go up. But if you situate that and what is happening within the current economic dispensation, where we are having a sustained decline in interest rates, especially for treasury bills, you would not expect an increase in interest rates for treasury bills. However, what you expect to happen is that the pace of decline in interest rates on treasury bills could slow down. And if that happens, it will still mean that the expected, reduction in banks' holding of treasury securities as investments will not reduce. because you need that to reduce so that they can lend a lot more to the private sector. So it means that there's going to be a sharp slowdown in the pace of decline in treasury bills.
All right, so moving forward, could we see a further increase the next month, or the next month when we record the month of May? Do you expect another increase, marginal increase in inflation?
Yes, there is a possibility. The possibility is due to the fact that there's a potential lag effect of the transport fare increases that could spill over into May. Because if you consider the date in which the transport fare increase was effective, it was somewhere in the 6th or 7th of April. That was just about the final day or 2 days to the final day of the data collection window for April inflation. And so most of the price adjustment would have been captured in the 2nd week to the 3rd week of April, which would fall in the May inflation data collection. So if you don't have the downside pressure coming from the other components outweighing the upside pressure from the transport sector, you could still see some marginal increase in May.
So finally, what if we witnessed a significant, reduction in the prices of crude oil and a relatively good performance in the parity rate of the CD against the dollar? Would we still, or should we expect still an increase?
No, we shouldn't. We shouldn't, because in fact, these are the downside pressures we expect to overturn the upside pressures from the transport sector. And it's looking good in that regard, because currently crude oil is below $50 per barrel, and the CD has been relatively stable. And if the decline in food inflation that we saw is sustained into May, then the downside pressures should outweigh the upside pressures. And so we could see either a marginal decline or a stability in the headline inflation for May.
All right. Thank you very much, Courage Marty. Courage Marty is economist with Data Bank. He's been explaining some of the key drivers for which is accounting for the current rate of increase, the marginal increase of inflation rate to 13% for the month of April. Now, moving on, the Institute of Economic Affairs is proposing the establishment of an independent body that will monitor government's expenditure and ensure it stays within budget. Now, the Fiscal Council, the IEA, says, will, among other things, provide regular briefings to the media about what government is spending and what it is spending on to ensure transparency. The IEA says it has presented its proposal to government and is hopeful it will be adopted very soon. IEA senior economist Dr. Osei Esibe at a news conference explained the country stands to gain immensely if government is able to rein in on its spending.
Because often we do not have adequate governance and fiscal framework and monitoring mechanism that often ensure that politicians keep to fiscal objectives and fiscal sustainability goals. Although we have passed the PFM Act 2016, which is a semblance of fiscal rule, it did not make provision for monitoring and compliance. Okay, and so in 2017 budget, the government actually, in fact, in the IEA documentation, it made a strong recommendation that we first have to have fiscal council, a fiscal rule, and in addition, we should make efforts to come out with a fiscal council. And so government has taken that on board and has made strong commitment to fiscal discipline of indicating its intention to initiate a fiscal council that will serve as a watchdog, monitoring and to ensure compliance to fiscal rules in Ghana.
Now, the Ghana Investment Promotion Center, GIPC, is working to implement some programs that will help make the country the best place for investments and for doing business. The move is part of government's strategy to make Ghana the preferred destination for business in the region. Now, but can these programs be implemented looking at the current economic environment? Yofi Grant is CEO of the GIPC.
My mandate gives me two responsibilities. First, the investment promotion and marketing the country, and then secondly, playing a key role in the advocacy for reforms and the ease of doing business, and because we actually at GIPC have two goals for the next 4 years. One, to move Ghana to be the best place to do business in, and then two, to make Ghana the most investor-friendly country in Ghana. And so those two in themselves, which have a certain complementary connection, are very important for us. So on one side, we will be doing the investment attraction and marketing. On the other side, we will be driving advocacy for reforms for business and investment climate.
But some will say that it's about the structures. No matter pitching that you do, if the necessary reforms are not on the ground, if I come to Ghana and it takes me about 10 days to register my business, all these things will just not work.
You're absolutely right, but that's what's in the reform. The reform is actually changing the law and putting in the structure to enable some of these things to happen. For example, the one window, one-stop shop, which will be an electronic platform for registration, payment of fees, getting your certificates and all that. We are trying to be creative in making the investment attractive. We are also looking at putting in certain other attractive measures. For example, if you invest, an individual invest up to $5 million, we might consider you for a Ghanaian passport or something we are calling the Ghanaian green card. If you invest a certain amount in properties, then we might consider you given that green card. So you can live there because we attract your investment. So there are quite a number of things that we are thinking of doing. Even at the GIPC, we are looking at our own laws. For example, how useful has capital limits been in protecting our industries? And the research is telling us that it has done very little in protecting our industries. So we are thinking that we should remove those capital limits, but rather infuse incentives for indigenous industries to enable them compete effectively with any other investor that comes, and create a rule-based business environment instead of an exclusivity-based business environment.
All right, so let's now do some aviation story. And work on the Kotoka International Airport Terminal 3 is 55% complete and is expected to be fully handed over by the end of April next year. This is according to the project director during a visit by the Aviation Minister, Cecilia Abena-Dapaah, at the airport. The new terminal is expected to handle additional passenger capacities of 5 million a year. Now, let's now cross over to the Kotoka International Airport, where we understand currently the Aviation Minister is addressing some staff.
Provide excellent services to our passengers and our pilots. And it's all because our workers are hardworking, and they should continue to make Ghana proud by what they do each day for us. And the contractors, are they Ghanaian contractors as well?
They are Chinese contractors.
They are fully Chinese, no content.
We have local staff.
Local staff, but the contractor is fully Chinese. Anyway, okay, so we'll go to the site. Thank you.
Thank you.
I know safety gears.
All right, so that was the Sector Minister for Aviation, Cecilia Abena-Dapaah, who has been inspecting some ongoing projects at the Kotoka International Airport, including the Terminal 3 building, which is expected to be completed by April next year. Earlier, she was addressing some staff members of the Ghana Airport Company Limited at the Kotoka International Airport area. All right, so we'll bring you some more updates on that in our subsequent bulletins when correspondent Sheila Tamaklu returns from the airport. Now, moving on Marketplace, government has announced plans to establish industrial parks in all the 10 regions of the country. This is to aid its flagship industrialization policy, one district, one factory, in order for industries to be established in any part of the country. A Turkish firm announced on Tuesday it will invest some $150 million into the One District, One Factory program. Speaking at a conference on the Trade Facilitation Agreement, Trade and Industry Minister Alan Chamantin said these parks are key to government's industrialization agenda.
So already we have created the platform for the kind of production that will require us to be able to move goods freely across our borders. We are also working with the private sector to establish at least one major industrial park in each of our 10 regions. Because all the progress that has been made in China and Asia is about industrial parks, about special economic zones, where you are able to provide dedicated land and service sites for industries to locate. So when my brother talks about industrialization, Ghana is moving on to that level. And that is why we feel that trade facilitation is absolutely important. And last but not the least, obviously, is the important role that the national single window plays in this whole trade facilitation architecture. And as I said, trade facilitation is a process. It's not an event. And we've been working on the national single window for some time. But I believe that we are at a point where now we've elevated it to another level, and it's become a national priority for us.
All right, so still on the Trade Facilitation Conference, West Blue Consult is one of the agencies implementing the National Single Window projects. Its chief executive has been outlining expectations of the conference on the Ghana National Single Window and the WTO Trade Facilitation Agreement in Accra.
To ensure that you have private sector and public sector coming together. So you saw a lot of freight forwarders, terminal operators, business owners, exporters, importers. And then on the government side, you saw the ministers from across various sectors, Ministry of Transport, Ministry of Trade and Industry. So it really is bringing everybody together to ensure that we can execute the articles of the Trade Facilitation Agreement, because the main beneficiary is the private sector, whereas government has to provide the enabling environment for that. So this conference is bringing all the stakeholders, all the parties together, so that we're all on the same level and we proffer solutions to execute measures that will benefit private sector in the
We need to understand that there's a facility or a package for the trade facilitation agreement, implementation. Are we going to make any move to get support from it, or we are going to implement it with our own resources?
I think it'll be a combination of, I'm sure you heard the minister mention to the WTO, UNCTAD, the WTO Deputy Secretary General, that we will be calling on them. It's about technical assistance, it's about funding, and the Trade Facilitation Facility is the first time that the TFA, the agreement, has a facility to support the execution of it. So I think it will be technical assistance from the facility, as well as financial resources and financial resources from Ghana.
Finally, when it comes to implementation, how far have we gone with it?
There's still a lot to be done. We've got the foundation in place, we've got the platform in place, and in the next coming months, you'll see services being rolled out.
Now, if you've come across any beautifully crafted metallic sculpture in town, it's likely to be the work of sculptor Constance Swanica. For 17 years, she's raised the benchmark in the craft industry. Her firm, Accents and Arts, has become a market leader in the iron fabrication industry. Now, how is she able to succeed in a male-dominated industry? The Joy Business Van is at her workshop, and this week will be on the Joy Business Van on Business Live. Let's have some excerpts.
Sparks flying from hot metal, hammers ringing on iron plates, metal structures being constructed by cutting, bending, and assembling processes. This is Constance Swanica's world. Constance grew up in different parts of the continent. this diversity in her background strongly influenced her outlook on life and helped her appreciate art. When she returned to Ghana to continue her education, she decided to pursue art at the Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology. She opted for sculpture, one of the few women to do so in her time.
So what we do also here is we play around with color a lot. We play around with all sorts. So ordinarily, maybe if you see railings outside, it will either come maybe in just standard black or white.
Okay. Constance Swaneka's journey as a sculptor and an artist started 6 months after she graduated from the university. She decided to open her business, Accents and Art, at her mother's backyard with 2 welders.
You know, when I started business, I started doing small decorative pieces, but in time, people started asking for a wide range of products. And I saw the possibility in the industry. And we sort of went all out. And the more I explored and the more people requested for things, that's when it dawned on me that there was a demand for very creative, well-finished products.
Constance started off with nothing. All she had was a passion for art and her acquired skill.
All right, so you make a date for the full story on Business Live tonight at 5 p.m. Now, also on the story, the idea of selling emojis and stickers in chat applications may seem a bit awkward at first, but the fact of the matter is that stickers are helping some messaging apps bring in tens of millions of dollars each month. Developers in Ghanaian game company Daffodils Games and Publishing are establishing to cash in on the need for chat application users to communicate more interactively. Kukwa Apia explores potential of the market for sticker applications.
The latest strategy that's making a splash in the world of technology startups is the sale of packs of stickers, which are large emoticons that can be downloaded and used in messaging apps, in addition to text, pictures, and video. Sticker developers are cashing in on the need for users to express emotions in the digital world, with game and sticker companies like Line grossing up to $270 million per annum. The sticker sub-industry seems to be growing. However, majority of stickers on major social media and chat applications represent the culture of the developer. This means many Africans do not have representation in this area, but that is changing, with companies like Daffodils Games and Publishing Limited, along with developers like Nanaya Ejewa, coming out with applications like Gamoji that are made specifically for the Ghanaian internet and mobile chat user.
Gamoji are stickers for Ghanaians. We pick most of the slangs Ghanaians use, then we send them into stickers. We started doing this because most stickers on the App Store, on the Play Store, on the App Store, on social media pages are mostly for foreigners. So we decided to make local ones for our setting. Since we don't have any social media platform for Ghanaians, well, basically Africans, we are trying to get all the stickers on social media platforms. We already have it on iMessage and Telegram, since it's very easy to get them on there. We are trying to get them on Facebook, since most of the Ghanaians who use social media are on Facebook. It's been very cool so far, and it's more like the people outside the country, the Ghanaians outside the country are the ones using them, and well, they make complaints about how banks charge when they buy these things, but still, we have a lot of people buying them and then using the free ones, because we have free sets and then we have the paid ones as well. So it's been really cool, and people really like them. We weren't really expecting that much, but it's been cool.
Although there is a clear need for representation of Ghana's internet population, there is the question of whether or not Ghanaians will be willing to pay for sticker applications. Joy Business spoke to some internet users to find out what lengths they would go to have access to stickers that represent the Ghanaian culture.
Well, it depends. It depends on the cost involved, because usually people are very particular about how much they spend on certain things. So depending on the cost involved and how relevant they think it is to them, I think, yes, people would patronize. There's a percentage of the Ghanaian market that would patronize that. As far as they are related to the Ghanaian consumer base, I think, yes, I would invest. I would patronize such services, because most of the social media platforms we use don't actually have stickers that relate to the Ghanaian culture.
There is generally a culture for people in Ghana not to necessarily spend online. They would rather go for items that are free or items that are available without necessarily making any monetary exchange. We would notice like a culture concerning like downloading music, downloading movies and series. So to say that the market is ready at this point for purchasing stickers online, I wouldn't say like immediately. I mean, let's look at Bitmoji and how we've chewed it up, you know, because you can make custom emojis that represent who you are. Ghanaian stickers would be an awesome way for us to communicate.
Yeah, I mean, I'm as big as an advocate for freedom of speech. I feel everyone should feel free to express themselves. So I would use stickers to express my opinions, my views.
Offline communication is rich in levels of expression. Online communication is still rudimentary in comparison. So we have a long way to go, and emojis and stickers are only the beginning. Reporting for Joy Business, this is Kukwa Apia.
And that wraps up Marketplace for today. Thank you very much for joining me, and do make a date again tomorrow. I'll bring you some more business stories. My name is Emmanuel Apuachi. Have a great afternoon.